You all thought I forgot about Bulgaria, didn't you? Well, I didn't. I was just saving it for part 2. I just didn't expect this many people to point it out. Anyway, in this video I will talk about more countries and share my personal opinions on them while also covering some interesting facts. Some of these countries can be considered distant neighbors of Turkey, while others are added just for the sake of diversity. God, I love how I overuse the word diversity. Let's begin. Three words that come to my mind when I think of Bulgaria are the Cyrillic alphabet, Baba Vanga, and churches. Bulgaria, but we Turks added to the Stan family by calling it Bulgaristan. Alongside Georgia and Azerbaijan, Bulgaria is one of the most chill borders of Turkey. Chill as in people mostly cross it for tourism or shopping. Especially in the last few years, due to the drastic fall of the Turkish lira, many Bulgarians cross the border to do shopping. Unfortunately, I can't say the same thing for us. Probably most people don't know this, but the Cyrillic script, which is used by Russian and around 50 other languages, comes from Bulgaria. Originating in the 9th century within the First Bulgarian Empire, this script was developed by followers of Saint Cyril and Methodius. It was designed to aid the translation of Christian religious texts into Slavic languages, allowing communities to worship in their native languages. Drawing primarily from the Greek alphabet, it also incorporated elements from the Glagolitic script to capture Slavic-specific sounds. By the 10th century, the script had spread among various Slavic and some non-Slavic languages throughout Eastern Europe and Central Asia. Undoubtedly, Turkey and Bulgaria have a complex history in which we quite often switch from being friends to foes. Being neighbors for nearly 8 centuries, these two countries naturally have a considerable number of things in common. The Bulgarian language contains 3,000 to 4,000 loanwords of Turkish origin. However, today in the modern-day Bulgarian language, around 800 of those are used on a daily basis. It is also worth mentioning that around 8% of Bulgaria's population consists of ethnic Turks, which amounts to approximately 600,000 people. The centuries-long interaction between Turks and Bulgarians led to the emergence of a unique hybrid ethnic group, the Pomaks. The Pomaks are a group of Slavic descent primarily residing in Bulgaria, Greece, North Macedonia, and Turkey, who converted to Islam during the Ottoman era. Although most Pomaks today speak Turkish, a significant number still use the Pomak language in their daily lives. This language is a South Slavic dialect closely related to Bulgarian and Macedonian, with regional variations and influences from Greek and Turkish. A considerable number of Pomaks migrated to Turkey in the 1910s after the Ottoman Empire lost control over the Balkans. Today, they are often regarded as Turkified Bulgarian Muslims. As a strong admirer of architecture and heritage, I can't talk about Bulgaria without mentioning the fascinating ancient churches, monasteries, and religious art. 10th century Boyana Church with fascinating frescoes, rock-carved churches of Ivanovo with some of the finest examples of medieval Bulgarian art, world-renowned Rila Monastery from the 10th century, Bachkovo Monastery where one can find traces of Byzantine, Georgian, and Bulgarian cultures and such. It's on my bucket list to rent a car, venture into the Bulgarian countryside, and explore these sites. I think visiting these places must feel like going through a time portal. There are just so many places to visit, and average human life is not that long. Genghis Khan's alleged last words are a good testimony to this. I've conquered for you a large empire, but my life is too short to take the whole world. That I leave to you. I have so many things on my bucket list, and I'm sure all of you do. It's just a matter of not postponing, or postponing as little as we can and doing as much as we can. I don't know why, but Baba Vanga has a strong connotation when I think of Bulgaria. I really have no idea why. I mean, she's kinda known in Turkey, but she's not super popular either. In case some of you folks don't know, Baba Vanga is or was a famous Bulgarian mystic and healer who is known for her predictions. Whenever some Turkish news outlets have a slow day, they're known for dropping some Baba Vanga predictions for this year sort of articles, which are ultimately poor quality pieces written just for the clicks. Baba Vanga had a lot of predictions, which are mostly claimed by her followers. Also, when I look up for those on the internet, pretty much every source says something different, so after some point, I can't really figure out which of these were actually predicted by her. I don't mean which events she successfully predicted, but which predictions she actually uttered herself. I personally don't believe in this stuff at all, but let's take a look at some of her alleged future predictions. In 2043, Muslims will rule Europe and the economy will flourish under Islamic rule. In 2066, the United States will attack Muslim Rome by using a climate weapon that causes sharp environmental change. There's your new Tom Cruise movie. In 2125, Hungary will receive signals from aliens. That's a wild one. In 2130, humans will make contact with aliens. In 2167, a new religion will gain worldwide popularity, perhaps Mormonism version 2.0. In 2183, the colony on Mars will claim independence from Earth. In 2299, France will start a guerrilla war against Islamic rule in Europe. Since coming up with such wild predictions is not that hard, maybe I can add a few of my own. So Turk chap predicts. In 2084, Mexico will be the first country to open Pizza Hut on Mars. In 2109, Turkey and the Philippines together will find a cure to eradicate cancer cells in seconds. In 2122, Polish will be the official language of the United States. In 2545, Papua New Guinea will become the new superpower. Three words that come to my mind when I think of Russia are diversity, Trans-Siberian Railway, and the USSR. I mean guys, Russia is big. It's enormous. There's so much stuff to explore there. I'm quite impressed with Russia's diversity. I mean diversity about anything you can think of. Not only ethnic and linguistic diversity, but also diversity in nature, landscape, architecture, etc. In this predominantly Orthodox country, you also see followers of Islam, Buddhism, Shamanism, Judaism and such. For me, it is interesting to see that Moscow, Chechnya, Buryatia, Tatarstan and Vladivostok are all part of one country. One of my dreams is to travel across Russia with the Trans-Siberian Railway, but I really don't know when I'll be able to do that, perhaps when things have properly cooled down. For those who haven't heard of it, the Trans-Siberian Railway is the world's longest railway, stretching about 9,289 kilometers from Moscow in the west to Vladivostok on the Pacific coast. Covering 8 time zones, the full journey takes around 7 days and offers a remarkable cross-country experience. Travelers pass through historic cities like Yekaterinburg and Irkutsk, vast Siberian forests, and natural wonders such as Lake Baikal, all while witnessing the rich tapestry of Russia's architecture, history, and landscapes. It is truly one of the world's most iconic rail adventures. The next thing that comes to my mind when I think of Russia is the USSR, which I think might be the case for many. I wasn't alive when the USSR was around, but to me it seems like it was a very interesting country from the cultural perspective. It was even larger and more diverse than Russia. And I've recently covered the ethnic groups and languages of the USSR in a separate video, which I believe would be interesting for almost all of you. Turkey and Russia have always had a complex relationship throughout history. It is still the case today. There were times of war and peace, but one thing has remained unchanged. The Turks and Russians have always had contact and interaction for centuries. In Turkey today, there are many Russians who either move here to live or visit as tourists. Especially cities like Antalya have such a high Russian population. Although I haven't met so many Russians in my life, the ones I got to know were pretty good and chill people. Three words that come to my mind when I think of Albania are the unique Albanian language, bunkers, and religious tolerance. Oh man, I visited Tirana some time ago and had a pretty good time. Albania was pretty fun overall. I saw a pretty characteristic nation with Turkish and Italian influences. Walking around the streets of Tirana, I felt pretty close to home, but at the same time I had the feeling of exploring the streets of a totally unique country. Well, my friends, to me perhaps the coolest and most interesting thing about Albania is the Albanian language, because it kinda has a pretty unique place in linguistics. Although Albanian is an Indo-European language, it forms its own distinct branch, making it different among related languages. Although it shares some similarities with languages from branches such as Hellenic, Germanic, and Balto-Slavic, these are mostly due to borrowing and contact rather than close genetic ties. Some scholars suggest Albanian may be linked to ancient Balkan languages such as Illyrian, Thracian, or Dacian, but evidence is limited and uncertain. Overall, Albanian is a standalone language within the Indo-European family without any confirmed close relatives. Since Albania was part of the Ottoman Empire for centuries, the Albanian language has borrowed a lot of words from Turkish. To date, there are around 3,000 Turkish loanwords in Albanian. Although I don't speak Albanian, when I hear the language being spoken, I can easily notice these loanwords. And my friends, of course, bunkers. Albania is covered with over 170,000 bunkers built during the Cold War under communist leader Enver Hoxha, who, driven by deep paranoia, feared invasions from both NATO and former allies like the Soviet Union and China. After severing international ties, Hoxha isolated Albania and prepared for a people's war, ordering bunkers to be constructed across the country, from beaches to mountain passes, so every citizen could fight. These bunkers, ranging from small firing positions to fortified command shelters, were massively resource-intensive, often costing as much as a small apartment and draining the economy. Though no invasion ever came, the bunkers remain today, some abandoned and others repurposed into museums, cafes or homes, symbolizing a period of extreme fear and isolation. I visited Bunkar 2 in Tirana, which I highly recommend. It is a historical museum situated in the heart of the city within a Cold War-era bunker once intended to shelter the Ministry of Internal Affairs. The museum centers on the actions of the Albanian police and the Sigurimi, the notorious secret police during Enver Hoxha's communist dictatorship. It sheds light on the mechanisms of state control, including surveillance, political oppression, and widespread repression. Featuring original rooms, archival materials, and multimedia installations, Bunkar 2 powerfully illustrates the authoritarian grip of the regime and its impact on the lives of ordinary citizens. I sometimes see very inaccurate comments by people on the internet saying that Albania is a Muslim country, while the more correct way would be to classify Albania as a secular country with a Muslim majority population. The 2023 population census in Albania shows us that it is a very ethnically homogeneous country, with 91% of the population consisting of Albanians. The rest consist of Greeks, Bulgarians, Romanis, Bosniaks, Aromanians, Macedonians and such. However, in addition to these minorities, among Albanians there is such a difference in religious backgrounds. 45.86% of Albanians follow Sunni Islam, 4.81 Bektashism, 8.38 Catholicism, 7.22 Eastern Orthodoxy, and 0.2% Evangelicism. In total, 17.37% of the population self-identified as non-religious or atheist. This is such an incredible diversity for a country with 2.4 million people. Being secular, all citizens of Albania with different religious backgrounds live in peace. Three words that come to my mind when I think of Romania are abandoned churches, fortresses and castles, and Vlad the Impaler. I've seen way too many videos on YouTube exploring the abandoned churches of Romania, and folks, this country truly has breathtaking sights. Whenever I watch such videos, I'm always glued to the screen. Some of these churches are located so deep in the woods that one must trek for hours to reach them. So the endless dense Romanian woods are covered with many forgotten sites. In many of these churches, you can still see the interior, wall paintings and texts intact. It all makes Romania quite a mysterious country in my eyes. Another thing about Romania that fascinates me is the abundance of fortresses, castles and fortified settlements. Romania's fortified settlements, especially in Transylvania, originated from the 12th century German-speaking Transylvanian Saxons who were invited to defend the Kingdom of Hungary's southeastern frontier. To protect against invasions by Mongols, Ottomans and other forces, these communities constructed fortified churches between the 13th and 16th centuries. These structures served both religious and defensive purposes, featuring thick walls, towers and storage spaces. Today, many of them, such as those in Biertan, Premer and Vichy, are UNESCO World Heritage Sites, reflecting a unique blend of cultural and architectural heritage. And now, let's talk about Vlad the Impaler. Vlad III, also known as Vlad the Impaler or Vlad Dracula, was a 15th century ruler of Wallachia. He is historically recognized for his strong resistance against the Ottoman Empire and for using severe methods of punishment, including impalement. During his rule, Vlad focused on defending his territory from Ottoman forces and managing internal conflicts. He governed Wallachia on 3 separate occasions between 1448 and 1476. One of the most notable and controversial aspects of his reign was the execution of many enemies by impalement, which led to his widely known nickname. While his methods were harsh, Vlad is viewed by some as a defender of Wallachian independence and stability. His story later influenced the creation of the fictional character Count Dracula by Bram Stoker, making him a figure known both historically and culturally. Vlad died in battle in 1476, and it is recorded that his head was sent to the Ottoman Sultan. Three words that come to my mind when I think of Kazakhstan are ethnic diversity, vast landmass, and war. Come on Turk chap, just stop saying ethnic diversity for once. Trust me, you'll be fine. As Kazakhstan is a Turkic country, naturally I harbor a great sympathy for them. I mean, I'm not that Turkish guy who wants to declare everyone a Turk and form a Turkic confederation stretching from Mars to Pluto. But since we do come from the same ancient roots, I do have a sympathy for the Turkic people. We Turkish people and Kazakhs share a strong common heritage. At some point in history, our grandfathers were roaming the great steppes of Central Asia on horseback. But they stayed there, and we Turkish folks rode west in search of new endeavors. Regardless of the different paths we chose, we are siblings, connected through our nomadic past. Regarding the ethnic groups and languages of the country, I covered this topic in a separate video. Although it is one of my favorite videos, it didn't receive that much interest from this channel's lovely audience. Please show it some love, folks. But long story short, pretty much no one outside Kazakhstan knows that the country is a melting pot of languages and ethnic groups. Kazakhstan is home to 127 ethnic groups including Germans, Koreans, Dongans, Uyghurs, Greeks, Poles and such. Due to many historical reasons, many different peoples have ended up here and stayed. I don't want to spoil the video too much, but let me give you a quick overview of how culturally rich Kazakhstan is. Here is how the ethnic composition of Kazakhstan looks today. We mainly see Kazakh and Russian populations here, who are also the two most populous groups in the country. But if we remove them from this map, we see such a surprising result. Let's take a moment and appreciate this view. Such different ethnic groups are living side by side and speak their ancestral languages in addition to Kazakh and Russian. Alright, let's move on. Another thing that comes to my mind is Kazakhstan's vast landmass. Being the 9th largest country with 2.7 million square kilometers, you can fit 11 United Kingdoms, 7 Italys, 5 Frances, 3.5 Turkeys, 27 South Koreas, 7 Japans, 66 Switzerlands, 1000 Luxembourgs, 3.9 Texases, 6.4 Californias, and 15.9 Floridas into Kazakhstan. But of course not all these countries at the same time. I've never been to Kazakhstan, but I would really want to go there. I guess I say that for many countries. There are really only a few countries that I don't have much interest in traveling to. But seeing Kazakhstan is definitely on my bucket list. I haven't met that many people from Kazakhstan in my life, and meeting someone from there and chatting about their country would be awesome. Weirdly, I've met so many people from Kyrgyzstan and Uzbekistan, but not Kazakhstan. I know that Kazakhstan is developing super fast and they have a lot to offer to tourists. Soon I will come to Kazakhstan. 3 words that come to my mind when I think of Ukraine are the unique heritage, borscht and Chernobyl. I like Ukraine a lot. Turkey and Ukraine have always had friendly relations as far as I can remember. A few years before the war, I went to Ukraine and traveled to Kiev, Odessa and Lviv. I loved it. Especially Lviv looked pretty similar to other Polish cities I've been to. I also took a tour to Chernobyl and Pripyat, which was perhaps one of the most unforgettable days of my life. It was a 1-day long tour and I got to see a lot of places with a small group of 7 people. I see this as a proud achievement, which probably led to my body receiving an abnormal radiation dose, but I guess YOLO. During the entirety of the tour, I had this indescribable eerie feeling. Thousands of people had lived there, and one day an invisible enemy turned these cities into ghostlands. The tour was pretty extensive and expensive, and we got to go inside many buildings including schools, homes, a grocery store, a theater, swimming pool and such. I will never forget that day. Speaking of Chernobyl, I also watched a TV show which left me with many bitten bloody fingers. Oh boy, it was one hell of a tense show. I will also never forget the awesome dumplings, pancakes, borscht and all the other great food and vodka I had in Ukraine. Folks, I don't think I've seen such a great city in Europe as much as Kiev. Everywhere is covered with parks and nature. Grabbing a coffee or tea and walking around was so peaceful. Hope I get to do that again sometime soon. 3 words that come to my mind when I think of South Korea are brotherhood, fried chicken, and TV series and movies. It's quite hard to find a Turkish person who doesn't like Koreans. Well, I can't speak on behalf of the Koreans, but the Korean audience of this channel can let us know in the comments what they think about the Turkish people. You know, for us, Korea is like that distinct cousin you see once in a while, but you love them. First and foremost, we are blood brothers. Did you know that the world-renowned metal band Iron Maiden's song Blood Brothers was written in memory of the Turks' contribution to the Korean War? You didn't, because I've just made that up now. But if we are to talk about real history, Turkey played a vital role in the Korean War, sending a total of 14,936 troops between 1950 and 1953. The 1st Turkish Brigade, consisting of over 5,000 soldiers, arrived in October 1950 and quickly gained a reputation for courage, particularly during the Battle of Vavan, where their determined defense enabled UN forces to withdraw safely under heavy Chinese attacks. Turkish troops went on to fight in several major battles such as the Kumyang Jangni and the Nevada complex, suffering heavy losses: 721 killed, 2,111 wounded, and 168 missing. In addition to their combat efforts, they were the only unit to set up a school for Korean orphans, highlighting their humanitarian spirit. Turkey's contribution not only strengthened its Western alliances and led to its NATO membership in 1952, but also created a strong and enduring friendship with South Korea, commonly described as blood brotherhood. And Korean fried chicken. I love it. Fried chicken is by far my favorite food, but when it's made Korean style, it hits different. And of course, a good old milkis on the side, preferably banana milkis, one of my favorite combos. Well, as a metalhead, I don't listen to K-pop, so unlike many people, I have absolutely no idea what happens in the K-pop world. I cannot even name a K-pop band, but I love watching Korean movies and TV series. Train to Busan, Alive, Oldboy, Parasite, Memories of Murder, and Gonjam Haunted Asylum are some of my favorite Korean movies. All of Us Are Dead, Kingdom, and Squid Game are my top Korean TV series. Especially Kingdom glued me to the screen. The plot of this show was super original: zombie apocalypse in medieval Korea. Koreans do have pretty good quality and original productions. So overall, I have so much love and sympathy for South Korea. Although I haven't been to the country yet, when I hear the word Korea, I always have this warm feeling. I will visit South Korea for sure, but I just don't know when. But when I do, I will probably end up having a fried chicken overdose. 3 words that come to my mind when I think of Mongolia are Genghis Khan, Mongol Empire, and Great Steppes. Yes, Mongolia does have quite an epic connotation for me. Well, this time we're truly talking about the distinct cousin of the Turks. Well folks, as I mentioned before, I'm not the kind of Turk who likes to declare every possible thing Turkish, and I kinda find it annoying when people overdo it. Like, oh, Mongolians are actually a Turkic tribe. They're not, they're Mongolians. Oh, did you know that the ancient Babylonians were Turkish? No, they were not. And even if they were, there's no conclusive proof to support these theories. I guess I've shown you my pet peeve, which is historical theories that are absurdly out of touch with reality. No kidding, I once had a family friend telling me that Obama was Turkish. I was like, dude, go to therapy. Anyways, Mongolia. Mountains, a giant Genghis Khan statue, fascinating nature, glorious history, horses, and the capital city with severe air pollution. The Turks and Mongolians share a lot. In the end, before migrating out of Central Asia, the Turkic tribes lived side by side with the Mongolic tribes. These people had very similar cultures, followed almost identical lives and religious practices. They believed in Tengrism and prayed to the sky god. Tengrism is an ancient belief system of the Turkic and Mongolic peoples centered on the worship of Tengri, the eternal sky. Rooted in shamanism and animism, it emphasizes harmony with nature and includes ancestor worship and shamanic rituals. Once dominant in Central Asian empires like the Göktürks and Mongols, it still influences cultures in Mongolia, Kazakhstan, and Siberia today. Turkic and Mongolic cultures in the early centuries were built on horses, warrior customs, and nomadism. These people lived as tribes and formed many confederations. They mastered horse riding and archery, and conquered vast lands with unimaginable effectiveness. The oldest records of written Old Turkic were discovered in Mongolia and date back to the 8th century BC. I'm a huge nerd for Mongolian history in general. I think the Mongolians played a huge role in history by altering the course of events, bringing different groups of people together, and creating the largest contiguous empire. They might not have left many structures or ancient ruins like the Romans, but they had a different impact in their own way. The term Pax Mongolica, which translates to Mongol peace in Latin, describes a period in the 13th and 14th centuries when the Mongol Empire established relative stability and security across much of Eurasia. During this period, trade, cultural exchange, and communication between East and West grew significantly. The Mongols secured major roads like the Silk Road, making travel and trade safer, as seen in Marco Polo's journeys. Innovations like papermaking, printing, and gunpowder spread from East Asia to Europe, along with knowledge in astronomy, medicine, and mathematics. The empire promoted religious tolerance and created the Yan postal system for fast communication. By the mid-14th century, the Pax Mongolica declined due to the Black Death and internal conflicts that split the empire. Nonetheless, it left a lasting legacy by connecting distinct cultures and enabling future global trade. To me, the Mongols will always be one of the most fascinating peoples. Today, with a population of around 10 million, they have remained the living legacy of what was once the most glorious empire in history.